You're listening to the Spring Break Money Coach School, a special series from the Wander Wealthy podcast. My name is Tess Wicks. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I am so excited to welcome you to the Spring Break Money Coach School. This is a series of 13 episodes, which have been the most listened to and highly valued episodes from the Wander Wealthy podcast over the last 2 years. I have taken the time to make sure to put these episodes in a specific order for anyone who is either looking to refresh yourself on what's important about building a life-changing money coaching program, selling, marketing, and getting your money coaching business off of the ground and booked out, or for those who are brand new to the show and looking for some guidance. These are the episodes to listen to, and I would highly recommend, if you are not at the very first Spring Break Money Coach School episode in the series, scroll back on your podcast player and go start with the one that is sharing my story. That is the first one to tune into so you can see how it all goes down, what I'm all about, and what I bring as a money coach to this space. Now, while you're listening, just a little announcement. I am going on maternity leave in the fall of 2022, which means the Wealthy Coach Blueprint is not open for enrollment. So even if you hear me announce that in one of these episodes, I just want to let you know that we are not open for enrollment, but what you can do is get on the wait list for 2023 enrollment periods. In the meantime, I would definitely suggest for you to check out the pricing formula, which you can find at wanderwealthy.com/pricing. If you're struggling with pricing your services and not really sure what a package would look like and how you would price a coaching package, that is the guidebook, calculator, and little mini trainings that you need to get that all sorted out. Another way that we can quote unquote work together with a wink is by you getting access to the Client Attraction Content Matrix. This is a quick mini course that's going to teach you my secret sauce to creating content that converts. Whether you want to create TikToks or Instagram Reels, stories, posts, videos, even for YouTube or podcast episodes, even blog posts, this matrix is going to change your business. Because when it comes to creating content, you need to make sure that you're creating content that speaks to your audience and then gets them to turn into paying clients. So you can get access to that by heading to wanderwealthy.com/content. And if you want a very special deal, get your hands on the pricing formula first, and you might just get a very special discount to the matrix, as well as a special treat in between that teaches you all about my simple sales strategy. So wanderwealthy.com/pricing to get your hands on the formula, and wanderwealthy.com/content if you're just interested in the content matrix. And those are some ways that we can continue to work together over the next handful of months. Thanks again for tuning in to the Spring Break Money Coach School. Now, without further ado, let's get into this week's episode for this amazing series. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Wander Wealthy podcast. My name is Tess Wicks. I am your host, and today I wanted to do a little something fun. It's been maybe forever. Maybe I've never done this. I'm sure I've explained my story in the past, but that's what I wanted to do today, was share a little bit about my story. And the reason I am doing this is because if you've been following along with me over on Instagram, if you happen to be linked with me on LinkedIn, if you have looked at my website recently, you will notice that things over in Wander Wealthy land have been changing. I am making a big pivot, and I feel like 2019 was really the year of the slow pivot, and 2020 is the year of the big, fast, this is the ultimate pivot. And for those of you who have followed along with me through this whole entire journey and process, I want to thank you. I am so grateful for you continuing to carry on and listen in and hear all about the many different changes I've been going through in my business and my life, and just, join me along for the ride. This new pivot is quite interesting. It's not too different from the most recent pivot that was going from working with traditionally employed, mostly women, to working more with self-employed business owners, online business owners. Now I'm just getting a little bit more specific, and I will be officially stepping into the role of a business coach and mentor and helping all of those aspiring, new, and even frustrated money coaches out there build your freedom-based business. I am really, really passionate about this new step and this new direction for Wander Wealthy. And for me as a coach in general, I think that the world desperately needs more money coaches, more financial coaches, more wealth coaches, whatever you want to call yourself. And now is the time to step up and to, step into a leadership position. And so I have been, working on the back end, doing lots of market research to not only take my own experience of building my own booked out full-time money coaching business and share some learning lessons from those, but I also wanted to interview other money coaches who are in various stages to find out what it is that they want and they need. And if you are someone who is either interested in becoming a money coach, or you are a money coach and maybe you're just not quite to the place where you want to be with your business yet, then I'm super excited that you're here. I'm super excited that you're listening. And, this is going to be a place where you're going to want to hang out a lot more. So Wander Wealthy, we're still going to be talking a lot about money on the podcast, but a lot of the solo shows are really going to be around how you would ultimately build a money coaching business, a financial coaching business, and answering a lot of the questions that I've received throughout my career of building a coaching business. I've definitely had people just following along who are also aspiring money coaches, but also in these market research interviews, and as I continue to even deeper get to know you all out there who are building your own business, I want to help you. I want to help answer your questions. I want to help you overcome any of your fears, any of your limiting beliefs, any of your questions about whether you are qualified enough or not. Spoiler alert, you are. And really help you build a thriving coaching business, because that's something that I've been able to do in the last, let's be honest, it's been 4 years. And I want to help you do it faster. I want to help you avoid some of the mistakes that I made. And I want to help you really see that this is a viable, sustainable business model. And I want to be with you all the way. So today I thought it would be fun to actually share my story of how Wander Wealthy as you know it today, how it's come about, and especially talk about my own experience being a money coach, because I think that it is super helpful to hear from others what their stories are, how they came up in the world, especially in the coaching world. And I want to show you that I was able to do this, and I know you can do it too. And if you think that I can help you, I want to help you. So there are many opportunities in which we can work together, and I'm really excited about the launch of a new program that I am rolling out. And so if you think that you'd be a good candidate to beta test the program, let me know. Reach out to me. The best way and the easiest way is to hit me up on Instagram. Just DM me. My username is @Tess_Wicks, and we can chat it out. If you don't have Instagram, what are you doing? But you can also email me, tess@wanderwealthy.com, and we will see if you would be a good fit. So let me share my story. How did I get into this work? And if you are an OG listener, you probably have an idea, but I think that might as well share it here, because I don't know if I've ever talked about it specifically. I definitely talked about it on other podcast interviews, but perhaps not on this one. So I think a lot of you know that I started out in the world of finance by selecting my major in college. I didn't really know what I wanted to be when I was entering college. I knew that I had what it took to do a lot of different things. I was pretty kind of naturally gifted, if you can even call it that, at, taking tests and being good in school, which is funny because that actually doesn't help you that much outside of school. So once you exit college, like that structure and thriving in that structure doesn't do very much for you outside of it. But it did help me get a degree, which was good. And I specifically picked a line of study, which is called actuarial science, which has nothing to do with science and a lot to do with money. I picked it because, quite honestly, I had no idea what it was. And I just thought it would be really cool to be like a business person. Like I always imagined myself living in the city and coming home to my apartment and like, I don't know if I actually had a briefcase, but for some reason in this memory, I'm like, yeah, I remember having a briefcase and wearing heels and like wearing a business suit, like not a mini skirt, a pencil skirt, right? So honestly, I didn't grow up in a big city and I didn't know any actuaries, but I was like, well, I like math and maybe I can do it. And so that's what I entered my schooling as. I declared a major as an actuary. And I was off to the races. So what actuarial science is ultimately is it takes statistics, so math, like advanced mathematics, and you apply it to financial matters. You apply it to financial equations. So it's a really unique concept. A lot of colleges actually have their actuarial programs in their mathematics department. But what I had learned was that it was actually better to have the actuarial program in a business department. And I entered college and found one that was in the business department. And that was really beneficial for me because ultimately you go into the world of finance when you become an actuary. Also, when you become an actuary, you have to take tests. And you have to take tests if you go to, a certain school. Actuarial programs are fairly new when I was studying it, but if you go to a certain school, they will help you prepare for the tests, but you have to take the tests outside of your schoolwork. So you had to do a full course load of schoolwork, and maybe one of your classes was a preparation class, but then all the additional studying that you had to do and the actual sitting for the exams, which are 3-hour exams, I believe, if my memory serves me right. That's all outside of school. So I did a lot of my tests like over the summer and I remember staying at school for Thanksgiving to study for an exam because I was really committed to passing them, and they're not easy to pass. So that's what I did in school, and it felt like I was really committed to this career path, and I had the benefit of having the financial background, of going to business school, of learning finance, not necessarily personal finance, but finance as it relates to businesses and helping businesses save money. And when I graduated, I had several internships, and when I graduated college, I moved to Chicago. I went to college in Des Moines, Iowa. I moved to Chicago and started my career as an actuary. So my career as an actuary was very short-lived. In college, I was exposed to a really awesome mentor who kind of cracked open the door of entrepreneurship to me. And he was actually very much a proponent, and he was actually a public speaker around the world of personal finance. And I found him to be extremely influential, and I really looked up to him. I still do. His name is Adam Carroll. You guys should check him out. He has a book, I think, a couple books about money. So they're all really great, easy to read. But he is such a fantastic speaker. And I attended a couple of his conferences in college. They no longer do these conferences, but they were for young leaders. And I was like, well, I'm going to be a CEO of an insurance company, but sure, I'll go to these conferences. Although the conferences really, they really leaned into like entrepreneurship. But that allowed me to meet my roommate at the time, who is the great Miss Amanda Boleyn. And we ended up living together when I graduated and started in my career of actuarial science. And Amanda had been going through a job change and actually was entering the world of quasi-entrepreneurship. She was an independent contractor, so she had a lot of flexibility in her work, and she was getting paid really well. And I was really curious about what she was doing, but I was still very committed to my career and my craft and being an actuary. And after a few years of getting kind of worn down in the corporate environment, and not that I think the corporate world is bad or that it's not right for anyone. I just think it wasn't a good fit for me. And I also think that the career path that I chose as an actuary wasn't actually that great for me. So I got really worn down and I got really burnt out, and it just wasn't a good fit at all. And so I only spent 2 years in the corporate world officially. I had interned for a total of 2 years while I was in college, but my total 4 years of working as an actuary, it really showed me that that wasn't the career path for me. And so I was hitting this wall of it was a mixture of burnout and really just disappointment in myself, thinking, why can't I do this? I guess I'm not cut out for this. Like, what's wrong with me? And so when I hit that wall, I was also super interested in what my roommate was doing at the time. I had some other friends who were kind of dabbling in the entrepreneurial waters. And I was also spending a lot of time at work listening to podcasts about entrepreneurship. I would listen to the Tim Ferriss podcast, and I would listen to Lewis Howes' School of Greatness podcast. I think those are the main ones that I would play. And my biggest frustration was that there weren't a lot of stories being told about the female entrepreneurial journey. And I would talk to Amanda about it, and she had this idea of starting a business called She Did It Her Way. And we kind of joined together along with our friend who was living in Florida, who still lives in Florida, Molly Rose Speed, and we decided to start a podcast and title it She Did It Her Way. So the She Did It Her Way podcast was born, and that was at the beginning of 2015. And that gave me something to do, and put my energy and efforts in outside of thinking about how much I disliked my work, my actual day job work. And I was doing some back-end stuff along with Molly, and Amanda was the host. And it was so fun and so cool to hear from other people and get those connections and just be involved in something outside of my day-to-day job. And in that process, I also decided to invest a lot of money. To this day, it's still a lot of money. I invested $5,000 in a program, one of the very first online courses I think that existed at the time. It was at the beginning of online courses. And I invested in this program because I really, really wanted to ultimately leave my job. And this program was all about helping people build SaaS products, software as a service solutions, and build them for different companies. And I was all gung-ho about that. And so in speaking to the leaders of this program, they actually helped me identify, whether I was really happy in my job, whether I could really be productive in my work. And of course, I saved a lot of money up in emergency savings and with the plan that I would ultimately leave my job. And I also had finagled a way to, I bought my home about 9 months before I quit my job. And then I was renting out my spare bedroom to Amanda. So I was having most of my mortgage paid for, which was really good. And that really gave me a lot of flexibility to take this ultimate leap. And so I left my job in May of 2015, and I pretty soon after completely gave up building a SaaS product. So I had invested in this program ultimately to give me permission to leave my job. And I know that sounds crazy, but I think it was one of the best investments I've ever made, just because it showed me that there was other things out there that I could do and that I could pour my heart and soul into. And so in the process of, going through that summer, because it was May 2015 when I left, I was going through that summer and I really didn't know what I was going to do. I knew that I probably needed to start making money somehow. And we were working on the podcast, but the podcast wasn't making any money. And we were just pouring our hearts and soul into that. And through the podcast, I actually got connected to someone who was building a content marketing agency. And so I applied. They were looking for a content strategist and someone who would basically write blog posts and social media posts. And I had no idea if I could do that, but I had been running this podcast, and I think I was in charge of doing email newsletters and social media and blogging. So I was like, hey, I have some experience. Let's try it. And the amazing Ashley Logan, who is the owner of Yakety Yak, which is still an amazing and very large content marketing agency in Chicago, she, took me in and decided to invest in me and see what I could do. And I ended up working with her as a contractor for, I think, almost 2 years. And that really helped me see that there was more that I could do. I had more than just doing data and doing math and doing finance on a corporate side, on a corporate level. And that opened me up even more to see that, there is an entire world and businesses built on creating content. And so in that process, I started looking into, okay, if I wanted to do this all on my own, what would I do? And that I got stuck right away. Like, I don't know, I could do literally anything, I guess, but what am I so interested in? I don't know. I'm interested in a lot of things. And so instead of turning to what would I do, I actually turned to who do I want to help? And when I thought about that, ultimately what came up was that I wanted to help with my content, with my knowledge and being able to write stuff or record, do a new podcast. Ultimately, I came to the point of wanting to help people like me, women, young millennial women who were getting started in their careers and had no idea what they were doing. And I say that loosely, but really with a lot of the welcome to adulthood stuff. Here's life. Take it. I wanted to help with that. And when I dug deeper, I ultimately took who do I want to help and what am I uniquely qualified to help them with? And that's when money was born, personal finance. I had a method that I was using, and I was also interested in learning from more people. And so conducting interviews was going to be something that I really wanted to do. And ultimately, that's when I created the Wander Wealthy podcast. But at the time, it was called Words and Money. So I started the Words and Money podcast in January of 2016, and I ran with it. Again, I had no idea how I was going to monetize things, but I just knew that if I could help the people that I wanted to help with something that I knew I could either help them with, like I knew I had my own systems in place for managing my finances, and I understood investing to a certain extent, and I totally knew about retirement because that's what my job was, and as an actuary, I was being a consultant in retirement, so I understood retirement to a T. But ultimately, I knew that I had what it took to figure it out. I knew that if I didn't know the answer to my audience's questions, I could at least do the research and figure it out and get them the answer. So I didn't have to have all the answers. And really at that time, I was definitely not thinking about coaching. I was just thinking about creating content. And so, I didn't even know coaching really existed. So I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to do a podcast and I'm going to monetize it. It's going to be my full-time job. And that definitely didn't happen. But, I think it could, but it didn't happen for me that way. But I knew, okay, if I was going to do a podcast, I could interview people and they would at least have the answers. They would be the experts that I'd bring in to ask these questions to. And so I didn't start out as an expert. I started out as someone who was curious and who wanted to help and basically help people just like me, women in their early 20s, new into the working world who had to figure out this life stuff. And if we get a little bit more specific, the money stuff about life. So I started the podcast and I ran it with it. I interviewed so many people. I uploaded a new episode every single week. And it took about 8 months until I realized that coaching was a thing. And when I realized that, I actually had someone who reached out to me and was like, hey, do you coach people? Like, do you help people get their finances together, or do you just create podcast episodes about it? And I was like, that's a good question. Actually, I was like, of course I do. Yeah, I coach people, fake it till you make it. But on the inside, I was like, okay, I didn't even think that was possible, but sounds cool. And so we chatted, we talked on the phone and discussed, what she needed and what she was looking for. And ultimately what it came to was she was like, I literally just graduated from college. I majored in engineering and I know I'm going to get a job. I'm going to call you back when I have my job. And a few months later, she did call me back. And by that time, I had actually started working with another person on money coaching one-on-one, which came about in an entirely different way. So this first person came about actually because I followed her on Instagram. I was going through like Jess Lively's followers and I just started following them because I was like, I need to grow, right? And this is a strategy that maybe people still use, but I definitely don't necessarily. But that was what I was doing. And she followed me back and she started listening to the podcast and then she reached out. And so I was really excited to even just have this proof of concept that, okay, people need this work. And then I had been making connections with other women in the industry, and one person that I had connected with ended up referring someone to me as a coaching client. And that was actually my first coaching client. And this happened a couple months after the initial who was supposed to be my first client had reached out. So I started working with my actual official first client in about November of 2016. And we worked together and then she ghosted me. And I think that's generally what happens to a lot of people. It's just, I had no idea what I was doing. I was taking it in stride and I knew that I was helping her. But we got to a certain point and I didn't have all my systems in place and I didn't know how I was going to provide and create this irresistible coaching package for her. And then she just kind of fell off the face of the earth. And I will say that can still happen. Like, you're not immune to that, even if you do have an irresistible coaching offer, because people are people. But being exposed to understanding human behavior a little bit more and really digging into the mindset work that I have dug into in the last year, I can say that people don't ghost me anymore. But it'll happen in various ways. And I think you just also get used to that and really do your best to make sure that they know they are supported. But my first client ghosted me after, I think, 2 meetings. And honestly, it's fine. That's a learning lesson. But then January of 2017, I got 2 more clients right off the bat. And the first person who had ultimately reached out to me was one of those 2 clients. And so we got started working together. I got to work with both of these clients and create coaching packages that I was like, okay, I'm going to do better this time. I'm going to be organized. I know what I'm going to do. And I started working with these 2 clients and we worked together for a full 3 months and they got amazing results. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is something that I can do. But honestly, other things popped up. And I can say that I made so many mistakes along the way. I got distracted so many times. I felt like a failure so many times. I considered getting a quote unquote real job so many times. And over the course of the next year and a half, between all of 2017 and the start of 2018, I really doubted myself. And I had taken on a couple clients here and there, but I really didn't think that this was a viable business that I could truly run. And I was switching all the time. I was creating new offerings, chasing after new shiny objects and just trying everything to see what worked, but I didn't have any sort of grounded focus on one thing. And I can honestly say, if I had just continued with being a coach and creating the best coaching package and knowing how to promote myself and get myself out there and connect to my perfect ideal client, my story would be entirely different. But don't worry, I made all the mistakes so that you don't have to. And I switched people that I wanted to work with. I would work with businesses. I would go in and out of being a content marketer and then a money coach and then a blogger and then a course creator. And I tried to do it all so that I could make not a lot of progress anywhere. Because honestly, I think this is like what a lot of people, when they start their businesses, they think, I'm going to create this online course. It's going to be passive income for the rest of my life. And that's what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to be successful. And that's just not how it works. Everyone you see that has passive income online courses, they work. It's not passive because they have to continue to promote it. They have to continue to show up. And so maybe a portion of it is passive, but very little of it. And it's not always effective because sometimes you create a course, you pour all your heart and soul into creating a course and no one buys it, or very few people buy it. And I've definitely experienced that. So 2017, the first half of 2018, I went through so many changes. And do I regret them? No, because they taught me a lot of lessons. And I definitely had to fail my way to success. And I think that's the other thing is a lot of people think, okay, I'm going to try something, and if I fail, I'm going to switch and try a new thing. And then if I fail at that, then okay, I'm a failure at that. I got to try a different thing. And the truth is, you just got to keep trying and trying and trying. And you're probably going to fail many, many, many times, and then you'll be successful. But do you want to fail at one thing and then switch gears and then continue failing, switching gears on level one? Or do you want to fail on level one and continue with that thing, fail on level two, continue with that thing, and continue to fail until you reach success? A lot of people don't realize that entrepreneurship, there is a lot of failure involved. And I will say, I don't look at failure as failure, oh my gosh, might as well pack up and leave. I look at failure as feedback, right? You know, if I want to go off of my NLP training, there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. And so I take these failures in stride and I learn from them. Now, in the early days, I would fail and I just switch gears, fail and switch gears, fail and switch gears. And that's why I didn't get further along as fast as I possibly could. And again, that's what I want to help you avoid. But I totally get when you put your heart and soul into a launch or even you get on a sales call with a potential client as a coach and they don't buy. And then you're like, oh my gosh, I'm a failure. This sucks. Maybe I should do something else. Maybe I should become a blogger, or maybe I should start a YouTube channel, or maybe I should just go get a job. And I think that's the hardest thing, especially if you come from the corporate world, if you come from the climbing of the corporate ladder. In a lot of ways, the corporate world is very linear, right? Like you just do what you're told, you show up, you get it done, and then as long as you meet the minimum requirements, you get to get promoted to the next level, right? And you can see that path, but that's not how entrepreneurship works. That's not how building a business that you are truly passionate about and you're putting your blood, sweat, and tears, and you have no idea if it's going to pay off. Like, it just doesn't work like that. And a lot of times, in order to get the feedback, you don't have a manager to give you direct feedback to say, okay, you've hit these minimum requirements, and here is where you could improve. And if you improve to that level, then we'll give you a raise. It doesn't work like that because you don't have a manager. And you don't have an HR built out feedback system. Now, you can create that for yourself, but still, a lot of it is just like trying new angles, staying in the same lane, but trying new angles to get to where you want to go. So 2017, early 2018 was sketchy because I was trying to do everything. I had shiny object syndrome to the max, and I was working with a couple people, but I really didn't know or even think that I could build a sustainable coaching business. I didn't even think that coaching was sustainable. And the bigger crux for me was I knew that I was potentially moving abroad. And so I kept just like allowing myself to not take action because I was like, well, how am I going to run a coaching business if I'm 7 to 9 hours ahead of all of my clients? It's not going to work. Might as well not even try. And that's what really got me. You know, like if I wasn't going to try, then obviously I didn't even know if it would work, but I was deciding it wasn't going to work before I even allowed myself to try. And I find that happens with so many aspiring money coaches is they're like, well, it's not sustainable. And they decide that before they even have enough clients to determine whether it is sustainable or not. And I got to tell you, another spoiler alert. It is sustainable and you can make it work for you, and you can make a really good income off of financial coaching, which sometimes feels like a catch-22 because how can I charge someone if their biggest issue is money? But you can make a healthy, livable, sustainable income off of financial coaching, and you can even do it from anywhere in the world. Believe me, I've done it. So the second half of 2018 is when I was like, you know what, I'm going back in. I restarted the podcast. I renamed it to the Wander Wealthy Podcast. I continued with my YouTube channel at the time, although that didn't last that long afterwards. But I really went in on being able to provide an unforgettable coaching package to my clients. And it took me a couple of months, during that time to really hit my stride and to say, F it. I'm going all in. I'm going to prove myself that this is unsustainable, right? Like I was telling myself it, but I didn't really know, but I was just like making assumptions and jumping to conclusions that I wasn't going to be able to build a sustainable coaching business. And so then I decided I was sick of not making money with coaching, which that was where I really felt like I could make the biggest impact. And so I was like, you know what? Okay, Tess, if you don't think this is sustainable, then prove it. Like build your booked out coaching business, get your ass booked out, and we'll see about that. And so that's what I did. When I really went in hard, I started building up these clients. And it was at the beginning of 2019 when I finally got fully booked out. And I did a couple of different things to make that happen. But ultimately, I just kept with the vision. I kept with the message that I needed to share. I knew who I was reaching out to. I knew who I was looking for. I knew how I could help people. I had a methodology. I had a package that I could perfectly sell. My sales calls were like bang on. I was successful at them, and I was getting clients, and I was booking out my roster. And that's when I was like, oh, I guess this does work. And there's a lot that goes into it. And I think, if you're still listening because you are an aspiring or a current money coach, then there's probably a lot of questions that you have. Like, how did you create your offer? How did you create a coaching package? How did you find clients? How did you price your services? How did you do all of that? Well, also, how did you deliver your coaching? What does the back end look like? And all of these questions that you have, I promise you, I have the answers to. And if you continue listening to the Wander Wealthy podcast, especially the solo shows, we're going to be diving in more on building out a coaching business and the mindset that you have to have and understanding some basic things to be putting into place and implementing. But I also have to say, if you're interested in doing this and you want to do it in a container of 90 days, if I can tell you that in 3 months, you will be able to find your clients, your ideal clients. You'll know who that is. You'll know what you can offer them. You know what results you can get to them. And you're able to attract and sell and make more money in 90 days with your money coaching, financial coaching, wealth coaching business. If that's something that you're like raising your hand right now, you're like, yep, I'd like that, then I encourage you to reach out to me. I am in the works of putting something together so you can see what my offering is, but ultimately it is a program that I have put together where you're going to get one-on-one time with me, accountability. You're going to know the steps that you need to go through to build this business out so that you can attract and bring in more clients and sell them and work with them and build your booked out coaching business. And the program's called the Wealthy Coach Blueprint because I'm ultimately giving you the blueprint to become a wealthy coach. And I want to talk to you about it. So send me a DM on Instagram at Tess_Wicks, or you can email me, tess@wanderwealthy.com. But DMing, I love it. Hit me up there. And I would love to support you in this. And we can do a coaching strategy session. We can see if it's the right fit for you. If you are the right fit for me to be working with you, I want to make sure I can get you those results. But this is the new route, and this is what I want to help people get to, because all of 2019, I was fully booked out. I had clients that I was working with. I had them all stuck up on my wall. For me, what booked out meant was between 12 and 17 clients at a time. For you, it might mean something different, but there is a secret sauce to get there. And I want you to get your hands on it, and I want to help you build that. So I want to support you in building your dream business, in getting yourself to the point where you feel amazing about your offering. You know exactly where to find those clients, and you can sell them easily, but then also any of those back-end questions that I know a lot of people have around, first and foremost, do I have to be certified? No, you don't. You don't. If you want to, sure, you could, but you don't. But then also, how do you manage? How do you manage 12 to 17 clients at a time? How do you manage, tracking their results and keeping them on task? How many calls do you offer? How do you price your services? How do you do market research? Like literally any of that stuff, that's also included in this program that I'm building out for you. So if this sounds like a good next step, if you've been scratching your head trying to figure out how to get started, or whether you're qualified enough to get started, or what, even just like struggling to find that traction, then this is going to be the perfect step for you to take. So I hope you guys appreciated the story. I don't think I've told the full story. So that is the full story. And here I am in 2020. I'm still working with clients one-on-one. Some of them are phasing out, my personal finance clients and my business finance clients, because I am starting to take on more business coaching clients that are other money coaches, financial coaches, wealth coaches, to support them in building out their dream businesses. But yeah, this is the right next step for me. It is my passion and my mission to bring more money coaches in the world so that we can help support more people who desperately need financial literacy, financial education, financial support, financial encouragement, all of those things. And I know that you are uniquely qualified to help your person get from point A to point B and get those really amazing results. And I want to help you do that. I want to help more people do that. So I'm super excited about this next step for Wander Wealthy, for myself, and for you. So reach out to me, Instagram at Tess_Wicks. Send me a DM and say, hey, listen to your most recent podcast episode. I would love to learn more about the Wealthy Coach Blueprint and what your offering entails. Or you can send that exactly word for word in an email. Just email me, tess@wanderwealthy.com. And I cannot wait to chat with you. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. I hope this was helpful, interesting, exciting, entertaining, and I hope you are all doing well, keeping yourself healthy and safe. I know that this time is still a tricky time. If you need support, if you need encouragement, if you need anything from me, again, reach out to me. I am also here. I'm also willing to answer any questions. So send me a DM and we can chat about it. And yeah, go forth, and I hope you wander wealthy.